Okay, everyone, thanks for joining. So this is Liquid Staking Community Call number 4. This week we have two presentations, one from Julien from Capital DAO to talk about LTokens, and then we're going to have Ashish from Matic, who's going to talk about their delegation voucher implementation. So we're still waiting for Julien. He hasn't joined the call yet. So I guess we'll start with you, Ashish, if that's okay. Do you want to take control of the screen and go ahead?
Yeah, sure. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, sure. I can hear you. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. I'll jump into it right away. Just a second. Yeah, can you see my screen?
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, sure. So, since like today's presentation, I'll be just to give the context. I'll explain higher level overview of Matic, and then basic design of staking design, and then we'll jump into the delegation shares design and liquidity problems. And yeah, sure. So this is like typically how our on a higher level, this is how Matic's architecture looks like. So these are validator layer, and these are like block producer layer. Essentially, from the outsider's perspective, validator and block producer are the same. And so the staking mechanism and the other proof of stake based controlling mechanism is in contracts which resides on the Ethereum chain. So in order to become a validator, you have to like stake some capital, which is into the stake manager contract, and all other activities which are like unstaking, reward slashing happens on the mainnet contract. And so the core responsibility of those validator is to submit the checkpoint to the Ethereum mainnet. And yeah, for the essentially so since we have like limited number of validator slots, which is like currently which is around 100, and in that context we expect those validator to lock bigger capital. And for that, like having, let's say if someone wants to unstake or pause for some time, then it's too much of capital to risk at basically. So in that case, we were facing like liquidity problems. For that, we added NFT token. So like whenever some new validator comes and initiates staking, then he gets a NFT token on mainnet. So which can so in that case, let's say if you want to unstake, then you can basically sell your NFT token to someone on secondary market, and let's say someone is interested, then he can start the node and build it, and depending on the situation, he can quote the price. So so in that context, essentially in 1 or 2 hours, the validator can get his or her exit. And for the delegators as well, we were thinking on the same page, because since our the whole staking mechanism is on chain, we have to do smaller computation due to the Ethereum gas limit and all. We came across this Chorus One and Sika delegation voucher design, and it looked like super interesting to me, and we started implementing it. And we added a few details to it, like adding ERC20 like interface, and yeah, those small things. So this is how the whole delegation design looks like. So let's say if validator Ashish comes and says that he's accepting delegation, then one validator specific contract, ERC20 kind of ERC20 like contract gets deployed automatically, and all the delegator who are interested in bonding with Ashish can basically interact with that contract and buy um, shares or sell shares and earn rewards. So similar to delegation voucher design, we also have the exchange rate mechanism. So initially it's 1-to-1, and then depending upon the rewards and slashing amount and the validator's commission, uh, it keeps updating actually. So I think everyone is familiar with the exchange rate mechanism, or like if someone has question, I can explain it later. Um, for the slashing part. So for the rewards, all the rewards for, let's say, validator Ashish is earning some rewards, then it automatically gets added to on-chain account for the validator's account, and then uh, uh, it gets split between the whole delegator and validator pool. And in terms of slashing, so let's say for all the active delegator, which are, so let's say if this is 100th epoch going on, then validator does some fraud on 100th epoch, then all the active delegators get slashed, which is essentially slashing the whole pool. And and for those delegators who are in withdrawal period, uh, so it's not fair to slash them for the while they were not bonded or something like that. So in that case, we just keep track of all the slashing events, and in the end, when they are claiming their tokens, essentially we are doing some kind of lazy computation to check whether they were in those slashing events or not. Depending on those conditions, they get slashed. And just like interaction with the contract is very easy, I would say. So in order to bond to some validator, you can right away call the buy voucher, and which is locking your Matic token, and you depending on the exchange rate, you will get validator specific vMatic, or in case of Ashish, it's Amatic kind of bonded tokens. And uh, also, you can buy those vMatic validator specific bonded shares from other delegation holders via secondary markets. And also on the same page, unbonding is also same. So you can like getting exit via secondary markets is faster, assuming there is liquidity. And normally unstaking unbonding works like you start the unstaking process, and then those validator specific Matic tokens are burned, validator shares, and you get your actual Matic token after the withdrawal period. And right now we are not supporting the rebonding, like switching between validators directly. uh, we might in future, but right now the only option is to let's say if we have some secondary market, they can instantly buy, sell, or swap with those validator specific tokens. And about the validator fungibility, so for the same single validator, those tokens are fungible, obviously. And so in order to like we are also thinking in terms of enabling the fungibility between the validators, which might work via the exchange rate. So let's say if my exchange rate is 1 to 1.5 and someone else's is 1 to 1 to 2 or something like that, then depending on those exchange rate, we can swap those validator shares. And yeah, so that was the whole design actually, which is very similar to the Chorus One and Sika's delegation voucher design. And one key advantage we get by our staking contracts are on Ethereum main chain, and also the delegation vouchers are on the Ethereum main chain. It opens a lot more opportunities for us. So any DeFi markets can right away integrate with delegation voucher contracts and other infra like wallets or dexes. We can use those things right away. And about the so let's say in normal design, validators can only bond to some single validators, or they have some kind of limitations. But since we are following ERC20 like design, delegators can buy multiple shares from multiple validators and diversify. And one good example would be like via set protocol. So they can have some kind of aggregated a product which is between like a number of top n validators, and so which is basically you are earning average of those validators, also diversifying your risk. And also like most of the instant exits are via secondary markets, so we are not violating any kind of like core pros protocol. And obviously less competition thing is there, which is not. And in future work, the major problem is validator shorting problems, and otherwise building secondary markets, bringing more liquidity, or making it uh, like available via other interchain pools or something like that. And also until the secondary market comes, we have this liquidity split problem between like since we have like for 100 validators, let's say we have 100 validator specific tokens, then it kind of splits the liquidity between those validators. And once we bring secondary markets and enable the swaps easily available to everyone else, then we might not have the liquidity split problem actually. Yeah. If anyone is interested, I can explain the exchange rate. Otherwise, I assume that everyone is familiar with it.
I have a question on this NFT for the self bond. So is this, let's assume that like Course One, for example, starts a validator and it locks some tokens for the self bond. And then we get an NFT for that. So we could basically sell that NFT to somebody else, while still running the validator. So those are kind of like separated from each other.
Not really. So basically, whoever gets the NFT is the owner, and he needs to run the whole node actually.
Okay. So it's basically a way to say, okay, we run this validator, and like now we want to kind of have somebody else take over. And we can do that without, having to shut down the validator, and also without, let's say, maybe handing over private keys or anything like that.
Yeah, exactly. So one problem with it is so basically, let's say you are transferring the NFT, then essentially you will get your self bond. But what about the delegation? So we are still thinking like what to do with the delegation. Like, should we bond the delegators, or like still thinking on that part?
I mean, if you don't, how long are the lockups on Matic?
So right now there is no lockup period, but in order to bring like more delegation trust, you can say like we are blocking for 2 months or 3 months.
Because if there's no lockup, let's say we want to stop running a validator and now Sika wants to take over. And if Sika doesn't inherit the delegators.
Uh-huh.
I don't totally understand what the point would be of the NFT.
Yeah. So, like right now, we are still thinking on that part, like whether to transfer the whole delegation or not, or at least we can like give the warning or some cool down period, so that everyone is aware, and then they can obviously pick their delegation with Zika as well. Is it
Yeah.
what you're talking about?
Yeah. I mean, I guess it seems like a cool idea if you could basically transfer if the delegations kind of move along with the self bond.
Yeah. So, but otherwise, it's also a problem for delegators, because like
Sure.
Shani might do something wrong.
Yeah,
That,
right. You didn't choose that validator, so you're right. Yeah. And I had another question on so with, you mentioned like set protocol, like, does anything exist right now in terms of like secondary markets, or I mean, set protocol is mentioned as an example.
yeah,
Are there sets existing at the moment for these vouchers?
no, not really actually. So the whole design is still in testing process, and
Okay.
staking test. So we are planning to bootstrap the whole secondary market for it. Yeah.
Okay, so you guys are going to take an active role in bootstrapping that market. Are you going to launch then your own sets on set protocol for like collections of validators, or how do you see that working out?
We haven't like given much thoughts on that part. Right now we are still testing the whole thing. Then we do have plans for like bootstrapping secondary market, even validator NFTs and delegation shares.
Yeah, and when you say like interchain pools, so you're talking about liquidity from interchain pools. Is that
Yeah. So
like
let's say
something like Torchain, or what is that?
so let's say in context of the whole liquid staking group, so basically integrating with other designs as well. So if we move those bonded tokens to other chain, and then like getting that liquidity or something.
Sure, but so initially it might be something like Uniswap, like creating liquidity pools on Uniswap, and then you're saying later on it might move to more interchain liquidity pools. Is that right?
Exactly. So initially the secondary market can be built upon like Uniswap, 0x, or any other protocol which supports swap or buying, selling actually.
It's super cool. I'm really excited that you guys are moving ahead here.
Yeah. But I'm hoping that like the secondary markets won't bring any kind of problem to, to the core protocol actually.
Yeah. So I think you mentioned some of governance. How does governance work in Matic, and how do you see it working with the delegation vouchers?
So, so right now we are like thinking that for every governance decision, we can't like involve all the delegators, but so for smaller decisions which are made to like some protocol things which affects the Hemdal or Voucher, then the delegated validators can take the decision, which is like Hemdal layer governance. And let's say if there is some major event or major decision to take, then we can involve all the delegators to like take decision. But like the whole governance thing is still in gray area. We are like still exploring the whole thing.
And so in that case, it would kind of be similar to like a Cosmos model, where like you could then vote with the vouchers directly.
Yeah, but for some limited high level decisions actually, because otherwise it doesn't make sense to involve all the delegators.
Yeah, makes sense.
Any other questions from anybody out there?
Is the idea to remain on Ethereum in the long run?
Yeah, right now we are layer 2 to Ethereum. So that's why it makes more sense to stay on Ethereum.
Mm. Cool.
Do you see Matic specializing in this staking derivatives market as a chain in the future?
Not sure about that, but like we are like a scaling platform, so mostly we are focused on that. But bringing more stake to our staking mechanism brings more security, and making it liquid also brings more. So that's why we are on this track actually. Sorry if I answered your question or.
Yeah, so to you, scaling is the primary thing you are looking to get right.
Mm-hmm.
And you are pursuing this experiment because it looks cool and interesting. It's like that today.
Not cool, but so as I said, the whole design is on Ethereum smart contracts, and we are bound by a computation, and it also brings liquidity. And computation wise also it's more suitable for us. So that's why the main target is to bring more liquidity so that more number of validator and delegator stake. And also, one more thing which I forgot to explain is in order to these contracts which are automatically deployed. So let's say if someone wants to deploy their own contract, they can also deploy, but it won't be like in protocol kind of thing. So like essentially we are going with the in protocol thing, but other validators can deploy their own contracts and bring their own kind of delegation vouchers. But so making it in protocol makes more sense because essentially it's uh, trustworthy for all the validators. Yeah, kind of. Basically,
So
yeah.
if I run a validator on Matic,
Mhm.
is the delegation voucher opt-in, or will the protocol by default print delegation vouchers?
If you opt out for delegation, then only you'll get like basically the contract will get deployed for you. Otherwise, you can sell bond all the tokens and then run the validator node.
So I didn't understand. So imagine it's chorus, right? Like, so on day one, we are deploying a Matic validator, right?
Okay.
Do we get a choice on whether delegators can print delegation vouchers on our validator, or if we run this validator, delegators can always print delegation vouchers?
Okay. So in that case, so for the in protocol mechanism, you have to opt out, like opt in basically that you want to accept delegation. Then only the delegation voucher contract will get deployed automatically for you. Otherwise, the validator can be a contract account on Ethereum, so you can always basically switch to or even deploy your own contract if you want to. So it's not we are not forcing anyone to accept delegation or anything like that. Basically, simple delegation. If you want to accept it, then you can.
Okay, so the decision tree is more like, if I'm booting up a validator, the first decision is whether I want to accept delegations or not, yes or no. Then that creates two branches.
Validators,
If
yeah.
I don't accept delegations, then of course there is no delegation contract. It's simple. If I accept delegations, then I can go with the standard Matic contract, or I can go with custom contracts.
Yep. in custom contract, like basically, let's say if we build some kind of so let's say other secondary markets, like we are not sure if they are going to support it or not because of custom logics and all. But obviously, if you are like, if you can be like basically that validator can be trusted or they want to integrate, then it will be. Otherwise, the in protocol design makes more sense for the secondary markets, right? Or in order for that token to be traded in some other exchanges or something like that.
But presumably I can, as a validator, choose to accept delegations, then deploy my own contract in which I specify that delegators won't be able to print delegation vouchers.
Okay.
I can do something like that.
Yeah, sure, you can do that. It's basically like, pooling the money or pooling the computation for proof of work.
Have you done any kind of regulatory analysis on what such a design might imply for your protocol?
I think in that case, we all are on the same page. So I'm not sure about the whole regulatory things actually. Sorry.
Okay, and are there any wallets in development to handle the delegation vouchers? Anyone working on a UI?
So right now we are working on it. I guess in like 2-3 days we'll be. So we have this incentivized testnet running. So that UI is to support that whole thing, and we'll be open sourcing that design so that anyone can deploy. Basically run the front end part, and back end is essentially all the contracts.
Cool, thank you.
Sure.
I'm also curious. So I know you guys did a IEO on Binance. What are your thoughts on exchanges running validators, and like how do you guys have any plans on sort of, is this something you guys will do something about, or like?
Not exactly sure about that, but no one will be happy if all the exchanges are running major stake with major stakes. So that's why the in protocol delegation designs, voucher designs makes more sense, so that all the delegators don't need to rely on any exchange or trust the exchange. They can right away call the contract and delegate, and also they have this trust factor, so that it's easier for them as well. And I guess we only need to work on that part, like bringing the whole secondary market thing, and basically building the experience as seamless as possible, so that they don't need to go to like any centralized exchange or something like that. Otherwise, I'm not sure how we can prevent that. Does it make sense? I guess it's
Sure. No, that makes total sense. I mean, I guess that's very aligned with our
not
thoughts
problem.
too. That's probably the best thing you can do at this point.
Yeah. I guess it's a in general problem for proof of stake mechanism.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But yeah, exactly. Like bringing the liquidity part and making basically making the experience seamless for all the users, and also if let's say uh, we are expecting more delegation, then those delegators are a little more advanced than normal users, but still they are very naive, comparatively with validators and all. So that's why basically making things easier for them would be first step, I guess.
What's the timeline on this going live?
I guess it should go live with our mainnet, and right now also the delegation voucher thing is in testing. So the flashing thing is not yet implemented, but like we have design part, and I guess before the mainnet we should be up and ready with it. But secondary markets, I'm like not sure about the timeline actually. So we should be like we should have the design and like basic infra ready for the secondary markets, and maybe like asking 0x or Uniswap guys to consider.
And the mainnet launch, when is that planned?
May, April, I guess.
Okay.
So right now we have incentivized testnet. So depending upon like timeline may vary due to like bug fixes or something like that. But yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Well, we'll have some time at the end. Actually, that was great. Really good. Thank you very much. It's really interesting to see that, and I think from a chorus perspective, we're extremely proud to see delegation vouchers being deployed. So that's great news from our perspective. So next up, we have Julien from Stake DAO, Stake Capital DAO. So Julien, are you ready? Do you want to take over the screen now?
Yes. Give me a sec. Trying to move. Okay. Okay. Do you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, fantastic. I can do that. Yeah, so I'm going to make a quick presentation of Stake DAO. So we since we announced Stake DAO last year, we aiming for live production by within the next 2 weeks for ECC in Paris and Paris Blockchain Week. So that's why I'm not gonna show you like the design and whatsoever, but more like the high level to understand the structure and why we took the decision to go for a DAO. But basically, the high level is, well, we've been running staking as a service across. So this image comes from the white paper that we published on what is it like on GitHub, so you guys can have access to the description of the DAO and all the different DeFi components, such as the liquid token that we announced inside the research paper. This one was more like a high level understanding, and we spent about probably like now a year working on this structure. Spend more time on legal side because of staking and staking derivatives and working on providing a yield or interest for people, such as the difference between Cosmos, where the yield is automatically paid to people, rather in the other side, for example, in Tezos, where you are in control of those interests and you make the payouts for people. So we worked like for a year on that's design legally and also technically speaking, and this is something that we hopefully after audit we can have live by ECC. So the DAO is already on the testnet. The entire structure and the design of this DAO and also the liquid tokens is built on Ethereum at the moment, but hopefully it's built on Ethereum chain, but can also integrate or can be linked into Cosmos or Tezos or Polkadot, not on the protocol level, meaning not natively, but more using external tools such as liquid pools. So coming back to the presentation, so the idea was we were running staking as a service, and it's as you guys already know, it's a pretty competitive market, and the fees, and it's very difficult to differentiate yourself in a competitive market, except if you provide. I mean, we quickly realized that fees, what people were moving fees to the bottom. There was a chase to the bottom for the fees, not just because of centralized exchanges were going to provide staking as a service for free, but also people running validators at 0% fee cost, a 0% fee, such as one of the biggest players in the market, like Sunny, with Sika validator. So we work on some different business model, and then we realized that we wanted to move to a DAO structure. So we initiate the DAO structure, we build it on a smart contract on Ethereum, and then it's live on Linkabye. We used Aragon, and basically what it does, like all the fees that we generate across all the different services that we run, such as LivePeer or Loom or Cosmos or whatsoever, then those fees, they go into a cashback pool, and depending on how much SCT tokens, the capital token you have, you can claim a portion of that cashback pool. Each of those networks that we run, they have a specific fee. They could either be 0% or 1% or anything. So the Stake DAO is live. We've been running on testnet. We're adding 3 different components, but basically having access to the Stake DAO, you'll be able to make decisions on the coming, on the next feature or products that we should be supporting in terms of validation, and also different DeFi products. We have a reward a component. We also have an agent staff that is more like trying to basically build a DAO in a very decentralized way. It's not always easy, but trying to make the DAO the most decentralized possible. And this is also because of legal issues. I will not get into details, but we can answer questions after. It's really easy. Stake DAO, we not only been involved in validation, but also recently, myself, I was involved in arbitrage for a very long time, also even before Ethereum or in a traditional market. So I also brought that concept into the DAO. So the Stake DAO is also a few different products. But basically the idea is like very simple. We get and we generate those different, we run those different services, we generate fees, and then we send it to cashback, and then we distribute those fees to Stake DAO stakeholders. The idea is Stake DAO holders can be people that delegate, but also people that provide services, such as external validators. For example, Chorus or Certus or what other guys, they can also provide services to the Stake DAO. Depending on, this is not implemented yet, and we're still running some research, but obviously that's involved slashing mechanism and hot time and all the different features. High level understanding on the liquid tokens. So because we're not building natively this liquid token structure or staking mechanism into the chain, for example, in Cosmos, or what Sunny and Chorus or the Voucher natively implemented in chain. So we need to build a system that can be connected on a native chain, such as liquid pools. Liquid pools is very basic. Obviously, they have their own implementation specification, because, for example, in Tezos, you will have 21 days. On Cosmos, you will have also like different period of locking period, like in LivePeer, 7 days. when you withdraw. So the liquid pool has to be very specific. For now, we only have liquid pools for the Ethereum native chain, such as LivePeer, NuCypher, Loom, and Matic potentially. That's what we've also been talking to each other. But basically, the idea is like you, instead of staking directly into the protocol, you stake into a pool, and then we issue this one-to-one mint one-to-one asset that represent your principal being staked into the protocol, and then you can earn interest, and then you can use this liquid asset to do potentially some other things in the market. Yeah, so that's very basic. This
just a question on this. So the L token, so let's say I'm locking Loom. So this would mean I don't sort of stake Loom to the normal mechanism, but I put Loom
correct
into the, okay. And then I get sort of a Loom stake DAO Loom token out.
It's you could consider that as a stake DAO Loom, but it's more like a liquid Loom that represent your. So it's kind of like a Uniswap pool, but instead of being a fractional ownership of a pool, in this implementation it's a one-to-one. So it's but this one-to-one is also earning interest. So it's more like a token, like AV, like a DAI or whatsoever, where you can still with this a DAI come back to the pool and then get those tokens back with the interest that was earned into the pool.
So is the interest, is it sort of like a voucher that like I have it, I can come back and I get back more Loom, or like how is the interest actually paid out?
Yeah, you send back the liquid token into the pool. You have to burn them if you want to take back the principal. But this will be described. Hopefully, we can have the implementation. But we've been working on three different implementations on that aspect. How to, I mean, the idea was to be able to give a representation on the trading market, because when you have a token that, I mean, this one is actually a one-to-one peg token. That's why it's easier to give a price, and then you have a pool, a staking derivative pool, where you can add arbitrage on the top of it.
Okay.
Just on this as well, like, so is there 4 different Loom tokens then, like for the different locking periods? Like if I lock for 2 weeks, that's not the same as a token lock for 12 months, right?
Yeah, so this is actually one of the scenario with the locking, with the implementation wise. So we have an implementation where it's actually a pool. So meaning that if you lock, you don't have a choice to lock for 1 week or whatsoever. It will lock for the maximum period, because it's actually maximizing the interest. But then we've been working on some stuff like set protocol, like maturation on token, where you can add different differentiation on locking period time.
Okay, so sorry.
Go ahead.
With the current implementation, basically you have liquidity, but it's fractional liquidity, right?
Yeah, correct. But it doesn't matter, because you can, the thing is like by providing liquidity, if the pool is set up to maximize liquidity, you don't actually should be responsible for how long you want to lock those tokens, because you basically choose the liquid asset that represent the token, the expected value in a specific amount of time, how much this token will be worth.
It's actually it reflects on the pricing of the L token. Basically, if you're able to have liquidity on, let's say, half of the tokens, so you're sure that you can withdraw half of the tokens, and you have another half which is not.
In a pool. That's why I don't want to get too much in details if we release this in 1 week and a half. But basically, the pool can actually set up. Imagine that's also the question of, if you got people that want to exit the position, meaning that they want to sell the liquid asset, they can either find on market people that want to buy those liquid assets, but this is assuming that you will find a market for buying those liquid assets. So the pool could also, like, you could, as a governance mechanism, you could set up how much of those yield that you generate you want to not be compound to unlock sufficient amount of liquidity for people that want to exit the position into the pool. So you got like all these different, that's the reason why a pool is actually a very specific implementation per different network, because you got a locking period, because you got like a different mechanism in place. So we've been building on two different pools at the moment, but it's not something that you can rapidly scale, because it has to be very specific to the network you're trying to support.
I get it. It's just that it will have an impact on the pricing afterwards of the token. The amount of liquidity you're able to provide, the duration of the bonding, or the duration of the lock-in of the looms or the loom tokens. It will definitely have an impact on the pricing of the L tokens.
Oh yeah, that's the goal. That's the goal of it. That's what we're looking for.
Yeah. Okay. It's interesting.
We're looking for that specific need because we're building something along the side of having that specific volatility on the, not volatility, but different price.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Just one question, one other question on that. Subletting. What's subletting in DeFi?
Oh, this is something, it's for NFT, it's something else, it's for NFT contracts.
Okay.
Oops. Okay, I did. Sorry guys, you guys see my flight? Okay. Yeah, it's something we actually want to work on for ECC. This is like all the different things that you can be plugged on the top of the liquid pool. That was more like on a light paper, but obviously market maker arbitrage and all these different features on the top, it's something that we very closely looking for. That's the reason why we first implement this kind of structure. I think I didn't have much slide, but yeah, I think that's it. It was a really quick one. I think it was like 15 minutes. Do you guys have questions?
I mean, one question. So we also have thought about some things a little bit in this direction. One thing that seems to be kind of an issue here is, you have this structure, right, of a DAO, which generally the idea of a DAO is that this is like very decentralized thing, and at the same time we have stake capital here, like running the validator, and that's not a trustless activity. I don't know about these other activities that you have, like arbitrage and those things, but like at least running the validator, like you have this kind of trust and reliance on stake capital. So I'm just wondering also,
I mean,
like,
if you check the code, it's an independent GitHub repo. Obviously, when you start to bootstrap a project, I'm sure people don't come from nowhere, so you have to bootstrap starting from somewhere. So my point is, we as Stake Capital, we are in the best position ourselves to provide liquidity for the DAO at the beginning and provide us infrastructure. But we'll be more than happy to give up on the validation side and then let other people provide the validation for us, because economically speaking, it will be more valuable for the DAO to provide those services if people are more suitable or more skills in specific network to provide that kind of validation. So Stake Capital is a normal company, so like as different structure that we can provide this validation, and also we legally back if something happened on the generation of interest or staking derivatives, but it's a limited company where we work for the DAO. But if the people we stake up shares in the DAO, they decide that stake capital is not the most suitable for running those validation, that might change. I mean, it's always the same question as asking, do you believe and do you trust that Compound, Uniswap, Kyber, all those different DeFi products are decentralized? But they're not. Even if it's MakerDAO is a DAO, is not a DAO, because the kill switch is always somewhere.
How will the external validation will work in future? Let's say if someone wants to validate for the DAO.
So if you want to get in, so this was not the focus of the paper. This is something that that will make sense for the DAO to envisage, but you will have to provide some collateral to the DAO to make sure that you don't. It's like a slashing mechanism. So if you want to validate on one of the different products or want to provide services, you will need to provide collateral, and if something happens on your uptime or you get slashed, then you also get slashed on the collateral of the DAO. It's just to make sure that you can run those services.
Okay.
But presumably that can only be like partially collateralized, no? Because when you have large sums that are going to be staked.
Yeah, then otherwise he can also, that validator can also stake and run the node independently.
Right.
Yeah, but you can. I mean, those assets that you add a collateral, it's not like sleeping money. They can still be used for compounding or like providing a yield. So it's not loss of money anyway.
And then the idea is that you'll have maybe for the token, I think, what was it called, SCT? Yeah,
The
SCT.
capital token. Yeah, can be like staked DAO token.
How is that distributed?
So the token is distributed based on inflation rate. This is something that we choose to be static and not dynamic inflation, meaning that it's not depending on how much value was created across the entire DAO, but more like it's distributed to people that provide delegation across all these different delegators.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
basically, if you provide and you generate a percentage of fee for that specific transcoder and live peer, and that fee represent 0.1% of the entire cash back pool, then you will be receiving 0.1% of the entire inflation rate of that specific cycle.
Okay. And presumably, do you anticipate that like the commission rate that's going to be like kind of the gross commission rate that Stake DAO is going to charge on the networks is going to be pretty high? I mean, it should be higher, right? Because people get this token to have this claim and stuff like that. No?
That's a good point. I mean, it's some people could argue that it's a good way to exit your to short or long your asset, but yeah, I mean, you could. I think it's more like based on the economics. I mean, we have to play with that, but obviously we could charge a higher fee. That's what we've started doing actually, because it's actually live, but not, I mean, publicly live, but we've been testing. That's why we increased some fees across the services that we've been running.
Cool.
Does that make sense? Any more questions? No questions?
Okay, I think that's it. That was great, Julien. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very interesting. Yeah, next up, we just want to talk about the document. I guess more just preparing for next week. I think we're going to start thinking about as we get to, like, this is the 4th call, so we're 8 weeks into the project. The project needs to deliver a research report, which is 30+ pages that outlines, it's going to summarize everything that we're discussing on these calls. And there will be an executive summary as well, which will be like about a 10-page report that will basically summarize the key findings. So in preparation for that, we've been adding to the GitHub repository. So let me just share my screen here. One sec. Okay. Can you see the liquid staking page there?
Yep.
Yeah. So this is the GitHub page. Hopefully you've all seen it. On the issues page on GitHub, we've been tracking the calls so far. So you can see like 1, 2, 3, 4 calls here. But what we've also started to add is a couple of documents here. One is the contribution guidelines, and then table of contents, abstract, introduction to proof of concept, or sorry, introduction to proof of stake. So let me just click here on the table of contents. This we presented a few weeks ago. This is the kind of draft outline of what will be in the final report. So if everyone could have a look through this and give us some suggestions, it's still not too late to add more sections or cover more topics if anyone wants to add them. We've also been working on the abstract here. So if you click here, really we want to start getting some feedback from all of you of what's going on. So for each section of the document, we're going to create a separate Google Doc that you can comment on, review. So please start looking through that. If you've any suggestions, please feel free to add your comments in there. And then I'll just show you the section we have here on the introduction to proof of stake. So again, Felix has been drafting this. You can see there's already comments here from or Felix has just been adding some notes. So we've been reviewing this internally within Course 1. And again, we just want to get some feedback from you guys. So as we add more sections, they'll all appear in here. So check it out, please. The other thing that we'll do, I think we'll start the call next week with we want to review this contribution guideline. Because we want to make this as much of a community initiative as we can. We want everyone to contribute. So we want people to kind of add sections, like not just comment on what we're writing, but also add their own section. So what we've prepared here is just some guidelines of like how we will manage that whole contribution process. We won't go into it now, but like have a look through this at the start of the next call. We will introduce this and have a discussion. We want to make sure like we get everybody involved in the process here about how do we get everybody contributing and getting involved in this. So you can see here we've just got some rough notes. So have a look at these and we'll chat about this on the next call. Let's see, I think that's it really. In terms of other content, I think we wanted to throw that out now and just discuss. Has anyone got some suggestions? There's a couple of things that are in the pipeline. There will be a presentation from Staffy Protocol at some point when they're ready to present. So that could well be next week. I think we had some ideas internally. I know governance has come up quite a lot. So we would like to have an open discussion on governance. I don't think we have anyone in mind to necessarily present a view on that. But what we could do is maybe, Chorus can start the conversation and we can then just have we can moderate the discussion on governance. So we could certainly put that on the agenda for the next call if people are interested in that. But is there any other suggestions? Is there anything people would like to get on the agenda for open discussion next call?
Also, the insurance, validator insurance thing. If anyone is working on that, maybe they can present.
We're still waiting for Marwan to confirm he's ready to present, but it's coming soon, right?
Sorry.
No, we're just saying Marwan is on the list of potentially presenting that. So,
Yeah.
is it likely to happen? Are you there?
Not sure Marwa is there.
Yeah, no, maybe we lost him.
I'm sorry,
Yeah,
because I'm having some of the issues, so I didn't hear much of what was said earlier. But if it's related to the slashing insurance, yeah, I can present it in the next call.
Yeah, I think whether you're willing to share what you're working on, or you don't have to reveal everything about the project.
Yeah.
But I definitely think it would be a very interesting topic that everyone would like to hear. How is that market likely to play out, right? If there is slashing insurance, how will it work, and what's the implications of that?
Definitely. Sure.
So do you want to come back to us on that? Because I know, when you're ready, or do you think could we put you down for the next call in 2 weeks, or is that too soon? Want me to put you on the spot?
I didn't hear anything. I didn't hear anything for the last 15 seconds.
Okay, sorry. No, I was just saying, will we put you on the list for the next call, or do you think that's too soon?
Sounds good.
Okay,
Sounds good.
Great.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, so we've got slashing insurance, we've got governance, we've got Staffy protocol. Any other topics people would like to cover? Yeah, Brian, were we talking about doing maybe a regulatory session? Is that likely to go ahead?
Yeah, I think that would be great, but I had some brief discussion with Gabe about it, but I'll have to circle back with him. But let's try to make that happen. Yeah.
Okay, sure.
But yeah, I'll try to figure out by next call if we can make that work.
Okay. Any other sessions we could think of? I know, we had to cut short the Everett Q&A because I think we were just running out of time. So is there specific questions there that we want to bring? Or is that just related to governance, or is there specific things around the Everett model that we'd like to dig deeper into?
I think that the discussion that Young is bringing, and that is happening actually in the liquid staking working group, is interesting. The whole risk discussion. I don't know if you talked about it over the last 10 minutes, but I think it's interesting to discuss this one because it looks like there are some risks related to staking derivatives mixed with DeFi.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think in light of all the flash loan stuff going on the last couple of weeks, I think it's certainly an interesting conversation of where does liquid staking end up. So yeah, I'll put that on the list, and we'll have a talk about how we can structure a conversation around that. Who's best to lead that?
Yeah, I agree. I feel like there's a discussion necessary on. I guess there's sort of multiple categories of risks there. One might be, potentially one could consider something like the stake DAO model even as risky, in the sense that you have let's say if that was applied on Cosmos, if you have some other blockchain that now controls, or some other token that controls a different chain, right? Or the Everett model that I think applies to. And then I guess the other question is, do you have some sort of financial risks that happen because all of a sudden Yeah, you can potentially create other instruments. So yeah, I think there's probably a whole it's a bunch of different categories of risk that one could look at.
So as Brian said, I think first we need to do is categorization of risk. So I think there will be like at least like 5 or 6 categories. So we want to detailedly define each category of risk, and then we need to dig deeper on each topics. So I think maybe I will suggest example of categories on the GitHub table of contents issues. I will make a reply on that. So I can just start this discussion by suggesting categories of risk.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Yeah, I think that'd be good. Like, so yeah, maybe like we can take this conversation over to Telegram and just try and make sure we can get that list together.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think it also relates. I know, like in the Everett discussion, I know there was a lot of discussion, or at least we started a discussion about how we would price these risks. You know, I think there's different risks on both sides, right? Both on the Atom side and on the LSP, like the liquid staking position side. So I've been working on a kind of a document just to try and go through that, to go through the different things that people are going to try to financially value on both sides of that, and then implicit in that is the risks associated on different things. So maybe we can kind of widen that discussion out into like not just the risk, you know, the risks, but also how you price those risks. So I can share some stuff before the next call anyway. Like, so anyway, just potential one to put on for the next call. We may do it the call after, but let's start getting some material together on that. Any other ideas? Okay, well, I think that's it for today. Thanks again to Julien and Ashish. Great presentations, and thanks for all your questions, everybody else. So yeah, we'll finish it there, and we'll be back again in a couple of weeks. And otherwise, we'll see you on Telegram. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you guys. Bye bye.